So, you are looking into buying a E36 era BMW M3, but you don't know shit about BMWs, and it's really annoying to read around on the internet to try to get schooled on them. Well, I'm here to help you out a little bit today. Gonna do what I can to do an informational video on what you need to look out for if you're going to test drive one of these things. Hopefully school you a little bit. There's a lot to know about cars. There's a lot to know about these cars as well, so I'm not going to be able to touch on everything. I'm probably going to miss stuff, but we're going to try to touch on some key points. Apologies ahead of time for two things. Number one, the lighting in here. I'm in the garage. The lighting kind of sucks. Got some lights over here. I'm doing what I can to illuminate everything the best I can, but we are in a garage. So the other thing is YouTube has a 10-minute limit on videos. I'm probably going to have to break this up into a couple different sections, but in order to get as much information as possible in the smallest amount of time, I ain't going to be freaking cruising in terms of how I'm speaking. So if you miss anything, rewind it and go back, because I'm going to be talking kind of fast. So I don't know, we'll get going. First thing we're going to do is make sure this car hasn't been hit. Okay, and I'm going to tell you mine was in a small front-end collision up over here. I'm going to tell you how we know that. But the VIN number, vehicle identification number, there's a tag for it on every body panel. Okay, I'm going to show you where they are. The fenders, they're on the side, right inside this weather stripping over here. So now this one is original to the car, has my VIN right on it. Okay, this fender up over here has been hit. It's been replaced. Notice how it says BMW DOTR. It's a replacement fender. And I knew this going into the purchase. The paintwork was done well. I know because it's a BMW part. They had an OEM fender put right back on the car, and I really didn't have a problem with it. Some people might frown upon that, but you know what? These are 10 to like 15-year-old cars, and they've been on the road for a while. Some of them have been in accidents. It's, you know, really not a huge deal if the repair was done well. So that's how you know. And just as a side note, just because you see, like if I were to see a VIN tag here, just because there's a VIN tag on this panel over here doesn't mean that it's original to the car. Who's to say it's not a junkyard fender that got thrown on there after a collision or something like that? So check to make sure that the actual VIN number that are on these tags matches the chassis VIN, okay? Now the chassis VIN, there's one over here, at the bottom of the windshield. There's another one on the windshield cowl over there, okay? Now they are on all the doors. This one's a 4-door sedan, so it's on all 4 doors, and the doors are in the bottom corner over here, okay? On the trunk, it's behind where the license plate goes. So that's that. I mean, look for overspray on the bottom of the car. Look for paintwork, you know, like seams and stuff like that where they might have put tape. Look for overspray in the engine compartment. You can see how they sprayed over into this tag a little bit over here, and that's how you know whether or not it got hit. I mean, as always with any used car that you buy, have a pre-purchase inspection done on it. These guys do it for a living at these shops. They'll be able to tell you whether or not it got hit, you know. But again, another note on collisions. Back here in the trunk, and again, sorry about the darkness back here, but the spare tire is under here. All right, spare tire is a full-size spare. It matches the OE wheels that came with the car, or it should. It's also a part that serves kind of like a dual purpose. It's the spare tire. It's also a little bit of an impact absorption unit, meaning kind of like a crumple zone back here. It takes a little bit of the impact in case the car gets hit from the rear like that. So if you pop this this cover up under here and there's no spare tire back there, it might throw up a little bit of a red flag. Start looking a little bit better to see if maybe the thing got hit, or if the tire doesn't match or something like that. So my tire, and I'll tell you right now, it doesn't match. It's a double spoke 2 style tire. These are Contours, because my double spoke 2s are in the basement with snow tires on them. I bought these after the fact. Not always a bad thing, but you know, just something to take note of. If there's no tire back there, could be a little bit of a red flag to take a look for. So on the trunk also, there is a VIN right here. So now another good way to tell whether all the parts on this car are original to it or not, if the thing's been hit, is what parts come with what package. Now the standard package for these cars is what we call the sport package. Then there was the luxury package as well, which is like a $3,000 option. It included wood trim in the middle, the console in there. I'll show you when we get in there. The seats are a little bit different, but the side skirts also were a little bit different. See how these side skirts kind of like twist? They're a little weird looking like that, okay? The luxury package side skirts do not do that. They kind of like come up on this side, and then they come up on the other side. They're symmetrical. These twist. These are sport package side skirts. Again, the luxury model ones twist back there. So the Lux, also up front over here, see how there's this black mesh? That's a sport thing. The Lux model has slats, just like painted pieces that go across. The sport model has a black lip over here. The Lux model does not. Okay, so something to take note of. I mean, if you got a luxury model with sport side skirts or something like that, take a look. I mean, maybe they replaced them because they like the way the sports looked, but you know, I've seen cars where they've got one of each, like one on one side and one on the other side. Obviously, at some point, something happened. So, you know, check for frame damage under it. Check to make sure the thing didn't get hit. And again, with the front end over here, check to make sure that this thing hadn't been replaced. Because, I mean, if you got the slats up here and it's a sport, or vice versa, then you know something iffy was going on. So, that's that. So let's take a little bit of a look in the engine bay over here. I'm assuming that you don't know much about these if you're watching this video. So we have an inline 6-cylinder engine. You know, it's mounted front to back right over here. Rear wheel drive, obviously, so you got the transmission goes straight back. We'll show you all this on the underside of the car, and then you got a drive shaft that goes back to the rear wheels. So we have a belt-driven cooling fan. Okay, belt-driven accessories. I'll show you this on the underside of the car. There are 2 drive belts. One drives the AC compressor. The other one drives all the other accessories, the water pump, the alternator, the power steering pump, all that stuff. So 2 different drive belts. Okay, going around the engine bay over here, just to let you know what everything is. This is the chirp thing for the factory alarm. We got washer fluid reservoir. We got the shock towers, obviously. Notice there's no battery in the engine compartment over here. The battery is in the trunk. Okay, it's on the passenger side of the trunk. Should have showed you when I was back there, but no big deal, you can figure it out. There is a little terminal over here in case you need to jump start it. This thing is a little electric motor. This thing will sound like a vacuum. It'll start up on cold start and run for a couple minutes when the engine's cold. I believe what it does is recirculate air for emissions purposes so that the car idles well and isn't blowing all sorts of shit out when you start the thing up cold. So it should only run for a couple minutes, not for too long. Over here, this is where you have the like scanner plug in for check engine lights and stuff like that. It's a specific type of scanner just for BMWs. Not every shop is going to have them, so if you have a pre-purchase inspection done, make sure they're a BMW specialized shop and they have one of these scanners to check for codes. Okay. On the S52 motors, we have the oil fill cap in the front, the oil dipstick in the back over there. Okay. Oil filter is in here. Just take this nut off. This cap pops off over here. There's a paper filter that drops into this this canister. This serves 2 purposes. Number one, it's kind of like a cover for this radiator over here. It's also an alternator cooling duct. Air comes in under here, flows up down into this little alternator cooling duct and right down onto the alternator. So that's what that is for. Air intake over here, cruise control actuator. Notice that there are 2 little separate units over here on the air intake for the throttle body. That's because this car has traction control. It's got a little bit of a separate unit for the traction control because what it does is it actually cuts the engine throttle when it needs to. It will apply the brakes as well. It's a little bit of a weird system. So brake and clutch fluid reservoir back there. It's a unit for both of those fluids. So same thing. I mean, they obviously have separate lines if you want to bleed them out or whatever, but the fluid comes from the same place. Fuse panel. These are I believe electrical connectors of some sort. I'm not really sure to tell you the truth.